What if intelligence isn't a shield at all? What if it's a spotlight that exposes more of the world and more of you than most people ever see? That's the quiet, often painful truth behind what it feels like to have a very high IQ. It can look like advantage from the outside, but inside it can feel like overexposure. Let's start at the beginning. Intelligence isn't simply a faster processor, it's a different architecture. The mind doesn't just run quicker versions of ordinary thoughts. It builds denser networks, it runs in loops, it fragments and recombines. The result is a brain that rarely turns off. Psychologists call this a high need for cognition. But need softens what it really is. For many, it's closer to compulsion. Conversations don't end when they end. They are replayed, dissected, mapped into motives and microtones. Small moments become case studies. Every detail is interrogated. That constant analysis feels useful. It helps you predict and solve, but it also prevents closure. You live with multiple parallel readings of the same event. Each reading generates alternative meanings. Each meaning generates further thinking. Gradually, the world feels less stable and more like a set of fragile models. Next, imagine the mind simulating futures. Neuroscience calls that perspective cognition. The name sounds clinical, the experience is not. Before you act, your mind has already run dozens of scenarios. Different choices, different consequences, different people reacting in different ways. It is strategic, and it is paralyzing. When you can see dozens of possible lives at once, choosing one becomes a moral act. To pick is to cut off many futures. That creates a heavy burden of potential loss. This is why many highly intelligent people describe chronic indecision. They are not lazy, they are not frivolous. They are negotiating an entire branching tree of outcomes every time they move forward. Then there is metacognition. This is the ability to think about thinking. For many of us, it's a useful tool. For highly intelligent minds, it becomes a background process that never leaves. One part generates ideas, another part observes. A third critiques. The critique is relentless. Confidence erodes quietly. New ideas get stifled before they finish forming. You become your own toughest censor. Attention itself is different. In most people, focus and daydreaming trade places. Attention narrows, then it widens. In highly intelligent people, the boundary blurs. Focus and associative thinking run at the same time. While solving a task, your mind searches for patterns across unrelated domains. That can produce insight. It can also multiply the task's weight. A simple problem becomes a node in a much larger network. Complexity balloons. Now add modern life. Infinite scrolling. Constant notifications. A sensory stream that never stops. For a mind wired to chew on every input, the internet is a relentless buffet. Brief pauses are filled by reflexive checking. Silence becomes anxiety. The reflex is the real problem. It rewires attention toward constant shallow engagement. There are manageable responses. Small intentional practices help. Short breathing exercises reset a racing mind. 5 minutes can soften the motor of thought. Grounding techniques restore a sense of control. These are not magic tricks. They are tools to create quiet pockets where the mind can return to baseline. The cognitive overload feeds into emotion. High intelligence often means higher emotional sensitivity. Empathy intensifies. Micro-expressions register. Tone shifts become maps. The brain builds internal models of other people with surgical detail. That accuracy is a gift. It is also a liability. Emotional contagion is real. When you feel what others feel, you do not simply understand them. You carry them. Crowds become echo chambers of feeling. Social rooms press like sensory filters. The natural response is to withdraw. Solitude becomes necessary. Withdrawal is not rejection, it is survival. Withdrawal, though, is misunderstood. Other people read it as aloofness. They call it disinterest. The truth is quieter. It is protection. It buys space to process the emotional residue that absorption leaves behind. This emotional depth pairs strangely with social life. Conversation among most people relies on compression. Language is simplified for speed. Assumptions are left unspoken. For those whose minds map every omitted layer, this feels like friction. You hear the unsaid. You see the exceptions beneath the generalization. Every chat becomes a performance where you compress your thinking to match the room. Compression works, but it costs authenticity. Over time, you learn to mask. You present versions of your thoughts that fit the flow. You stop sharing the full logic. That creates a slow internal separation. You are physically present, but your most detailed thoughts remain private. That is a form of loneliness that public life rarely talks about. Another social force increases the strain. People sometimes respond to deep intelligence with fear, not explicit hostility always. More often, subtle avoidance. Cognitive threat triggers primitive responses. The amygdala lights up. People prefer stability to destabilizing ideas. History shows this. The thinkers who pushed boundaries often encountered resistance. Resistance is not proof of wrongdoing. It is proof that you touched a system's limits. But that resistance pushes many intelligent people inward. If genuine connection requires depth, tolerance, and patience, it will be rare. And rare equals precious. All of these strains converge. Cognitive loops, emotional overload, social mismatch. They meet in the realm of meaning. The highly intelligent mind does not stop at practical questions. It extends its probing to purpose, existence, and death. Those are slippery problems. They are not solved by more data. They increase in scope with every thought. This often produces a persistent disillusionment. Meaning looks constructed. Goals look arbitrary. Daily tasks, cleaning the apartment, paying bills, small responsibilities start to feel absurd beside infinite questions. That tension is exhausting. It is not clinical depression at first. It is structural dissonance. You experience life on two levels, the detailed internal analysis and the mundane external demands. Both are real, both are required. Neither fits easily with the other. Three specific pressures tend to co-occur and deepen this strain. First, analysis saturation. You can see too many possible outcomes. Second, maladaptive perfectionism. You imagine optimal trajectories that reality cannot match. Third, structural doubt. The more you know, the more you see what you do not know. Confidence becomes provisional. Beliefs are always subject to revision. Together, these forces make action costly. They erode joy, they increase fatigue. They breed a quiet fear of commitment. When even small choices feel like moral trade-offs between plausible worlds, the mind is never at rest. So what can be done? Let's be practical in a humane way. First, change how you manage effort. Most cultures manage time. They measure success by hours logged. That model fails a mind that operates by intensity. Work for high-intensity stretches. Protect those windows. Accept and normalize periods of low output between them. Measure by depth, not by minutes. Second, design conditions for flow. Flow is not discipline. It is alignment. The task must match your skill and stretch you just enough. Too easy equals boredom. Too hard equals fragmentation. Find work that hits that narrow sweet spot. Structure your environment to reduce interruptions during these windows. Third, reclaim solitude as a skill. Solitude is not a defect. It is decompression for a mind that takes in too much. Practice intentional solitude. Make it regular. Use it to clear emotional residue and to let cognitive loops unwind. But balance it with connection. Fourth, avoid isolation. Solitude heals, isolation erodes. Seek out people who appreciate complexity. You do not need many. You need a few compatible thinkers or listeners. These relationships permit you to express without compressing. They redistribute weight. They create resonance. That resonance is restorative. Fifth, practice boundaries with information. Notice the reflex to check and to fill silence. Replace reflexive consumption with deliberate intake. Curate media. Limit notification friction. Treat attention as a scarce resource, not an infinite one. Sixth, be gentle with the standards you hold. Perfectionist ideals are useful as guides, not as verdicts. Allow prototypes and imperfect launches. Test learning as the metric, not flawless execution. Finally, normalize uncertainty. The intelligent mind will keep generating questions. That is a strength. Learn to hold questions alongside practical commitments. Let your choices be provisional experiments. Refine them with evidence instead of rewriting them for every new hypothesis. If this resonates, know this: you are not broken. You are operating on a different scale. Your sensitivity and depth are gifts that require different supports. Your path is not toward erasing complexity. It is toward building structures that can hold it. Intelligence does not promise comfort. It promises honesty. That honesty can feel isolating at first, but it also allows you to create meaning more intentionally. To build communities that tolerate nuance. To choose work and relationships that match your bandwidth. To live with questions without letting them immobilize you. In the end, the most humane approach is practical. Protect your attention, guard your solitude, seek compatible connection, design for flow. Be kinder in the voice you use on yourself. You do not have to carry every thought fully formed. You can let some ideas rest. You can return to them later. If intelligence has exposed you to a more honest world, then it also offers a clearer opportunity. You can learn to scaffold that honesty. You can build environments that hold complexity without breaking. That is not small. It is slow work. It is the work of living well with a mind that sees more than most. You are not alone in this. Many feel it. Many learn to live with it. And that learning, patient, deliberate, compassionate, changes the experience from a lonely burden into a manageable, even meaningful life.